Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. Today we have an exciting update with Kingfisher Metals. They just closed a financing and are all cashed up to start a very exciting drill program this summer in the Golden Triangle in British Columbia. With me today, I have CEO Dustin Perry, who's going to provide a bit of an update, and then we'll jump into Q&A. For anyone that has questions, feel free to post them in the comments box, or you can email them to me. And as always, this presentation will contain forward-looking statements. If you'd like to know more about those, you can find them on the company's presentation on the website. With that out of the way, I'd like to introduce Dustin Perry. Hi, Dustin. How are you doing?
Hi, Deb. I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good. Exciting times. Congrats on the financing. Looks like you're all cashed up and ready to go this summer. So looking forward to hearing a bit more about your plans.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll jump into it. I'm just going to provide a bit of a refresher to everybody of what we're doing, and then we can go through our targets, and then we can answer questions. So, we're a BC focused company, focused pretty clearly in the Golden Triangle. We do have other assets, but those aren't our priorities. Consolidating and exploring the Golden Triangle has been what we've been doing for the last couple of years. So we're right in the thick of things. We're surrounded by major mining companies. Newmont borders us to the north, Teck with their Shaft Creek project to the northwest, and Galore Creek due west, and their road actually borders us to the south. So we're in a good location. What brought us into this region is the prospectivity, but also the lack of exploration maturity on the ground that we have. So it has all the right rocks, good clues of mineralization, whether it be large geochemical anomalies or excellent historical intercepts. So there's a lot going on in the project. We've really put together a Golden Triangle team that's experts in the regions and in porphyry copper gold, which is what we're exploring for. One second. Oops, sorry. So I'm just going to touch on what we're doing this year. So we are doing a drill program this year, but we're doing a lot more than just drilling. And it looks like I updated an image here, and I've got an old circle on here, but you get the idea. This is where we're focused on drilling this year. And we're doing a lot more outside of that as well. So we're doing a large scale airborne EM and what's called mobile MT survey over, I think it's 1,700, 1,800 line kilometers, covering a pretty broad area. We're also doing, I think, about 120 to 150 man days of mapping, and that's being led by Dr. Roy Gregg, who's a University of Arizona PhD in porphyries. So he's Charlie Gregg's son. Charlie will also be up on site. So they're leading a mapping program, and then as well, one of our technical advisors, Stephanie Sikora, who did her PhD in the Lahire project that Newmont now owns. So both of them will be doing that. Lots of IP, full month of IP with the crew. So we put 30 kilometers in our announcement. I don't know where we're going to land. It might go higher. And then a lot of geochemical sampling as well. On this image here, you can see some pretty big gaps in the geochemical anomalies, and those are some of the things we're going to be filling in. Big, areas of up to 2.5 kilometers in a highly prospective trend that have no sampling. So a lot of opportunity for grassroots discoveries this year, or at least advancing targets towards the drill ready state, but then a very focused drill program within the Hank Williams trend. Again, I guess a few things got messed up when I just updated this. This was from our news release, and you can see the holes in red. Those are what we've essentially committed to drilling, and then the holes in black are our second priority, I guess, holes. Basically, the way you do any early stage program like this is you go drill your best targets first, and then you leave a good chunk of your meterage available to adjust the program on the fly. And that's how we're managing this program. Where we're going to start is within the Williams deposit area. And then we're going to test across the valley here, and we're also going to test this upper Hank and lower Hank target. what you can see on this image here is an outline of what this area looks like. So Upper Hank would be right here on top of the lithocap. Lower Hank would be down in between these large Gossans, and then Williams is in the valley bottom. This is what Williams looks like. So this outline here basically outlines the area of good grades of historical mineralization. And all the historical holes went to, they maxed out at just around 600 meters. That was the capability of the drill they were using. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill quite a bit deeper. We've got holes planned up to 900 meters, and we can go a lot further if the justification is there. If we're in mineralization, we're not going to stop. But what we're doing differently than the previous operators, well, for one, most of the historic drill holes were in a common orientation or at 180 degrees to that. We need to drill at different orientations to really get a handle on the overall orientation of the system. It appears to be subvertical, but really to test it and to know where to go next with longer step out holes, we need to drill steeper holes from different orientations. Some of these holes are going to go through or below known areas of mineralization. We're not twinning holes, so this is new information, but we do have a high degree of confidence in some of these holes. And we do need holes through the known ore body. And the reason for that is because we only have one of the historical holes in our possession. So we need more information in the area before we, commit to doing more work on this. But our goal here is to take this thing substantially deeper than they already have. We'd like to go, or, our planned holes take us about 250, 300 meters below the limits of mineralization. In porphyry systems, you can get upwards of 1,500 meters of mineralization, such as at Red Chris, just down the highway. So the goal of this program is to find higher grades, because the higher grades do generally show up as you get deeper, and historic drilling has shown that on the project. But it's also to provide more information for how we can expand upon this. At Red Chris, which is our closest analog in the Golden Triangle, mineralization at surface is more narrow and structurally focused. And as you get deeper, it gets more bulbous, like a traditional, what you might think of as a traditional porphyry shape. So our goal is to get deeper and hopefully see broadening of the system, but also increase grades. So that's where we're starting. And the drill, it's Wednesday. The drill is on site on Thursday, tomorrow. And we got to fix a hole, a bit of a mess that was left by previous operator. You can see this area down in here where there's some erosion taking place from a hole that basically hit the water table and water's coming out. So we need to plug that hole. That should take about 3 days or less, hopefully. And then by mid next week, we will be drilling our first hole, and around the same time, the second drill will be going up and drilling the second hole of the program. So there'll be 2 drills going, starting in this area and then expanding to the other targets. Just a little bit of what these look like. So these are large IP anomalies. There's a large epithermal system on this side of the valley, and beneath it, at a similar elevation to Williams, you're getting these large IP anomalies. You can see what they look like here. So these are all big targets. IP, it can measure a number of things, but generally it's measuring the sulfide abundance. So porphyries are really just large sulfur deposits. There's more sulfur in them than there is economic metals. And that's how you vector in on these systems. And we've done a lot of really focused exploration work, including lots of mapping, IP, spectral geology. There's already a lot of soil geochemistry. We've got mag, lots of different data layers, which have all pointed us into the locations we're going to test as the best way to test these with the first pass. And hopefully we're drilling follow-up holes, and we will have a budget to do so. So I guess the opportunity here this year is us showing that Williams is a lot bigger and improving upon the grade there, but then also testing for multiple other porphyries in the area. And people have asked, what would a success be? I think, if we can increase substantially upon Williams, that in itself is a success, but there's opportunities for new discoveries as well. And, drilling significantly below Williams, I would consider a discovery. So there's a lot of, potential reward here, and there's risk, but the risk is limited with knowing that there's mineralization in the area and being able to follow up on the work that's already been done at Williams. So with all that in mind, we've got a lot of information out there. If you want to find more of it, you can go on, look at a lot of videos or my Twitter posts or whatnot. But I'm just going to cover a few updates on our team for anybody that hasn't seen. So we've really updated our team over the last year. We've added Tyler, who came from Northwest Copper. Gail is still heavily involved full-time with us. We also added Paul Gruner, who was formerly the CEO of the Tahltan Nation Development Corporation. And then we also added Ashwath Mehra as chairing our advisory board, and he wrote the lead order into our last financing. So with that in mind, post closing this financing, we're trading around, $26-28 million, depending on the day. We've got around $10.5 million in the bank, and we've already prepaid a bunch of our expiration program. Just over 88 million shares outstanding. Big shareholders on the roster would be Alex Gubbins, who's been with us for a very long time. Ashwath and Larry have come in on the most recent raise and the previous one. And then we've really upped the institutional ownership on this financing. So funds within the company right now would include Commodity Capital, Crescat, Deutsche Rostov, Lowell, Plethora, Spartan, and Kings Road. So we've accomplished a lot in the last year, and this program is kind of like the culmination of it, and we'll see what we can come up with. I'm going to be up on site Monday, and probably about 6 times over the year. We're going to be taking a lot of video content this year, so we'll be updating people throughout the program, and can't wait to get the core out of the ground and get some results. Good to go on questions.
Thanks, Dustin. You answered a lot of my questions in your presentation, so thanks for that. Okay, so you have a question. You talked about a bit about the previous work that's been done. Maybe you could give us like a whole summary of what the work's been done behind the scenes for the past 2 years at Highway 37, your main takeaways, and what it means for the geological potential of the project.
Yeah, so coming in and assembling all this ground, we've inherited a lot of historical data, and as any geologist out there would be aware of, data sets are in very variable quality. So we spent a ton of time assembling that. We found a lot of data that wasn't even in the various companies' data rooms, and we've done a lot of analysis on the geochemistry. We've had mag interps done and inversions done by third parties. We've done more IP, but also integrated historical IP. We've done spectral work. We've done a lot of mapping. And Gail was actually on some of these projects in the past doing mapping. So we had that knowledge going into it, and we've improved upon that. We've done a lot of 3D modeling, not just at the Hank Williams area, but also at Mary and other targets in the project. We brought in a team that's very good operationally at executing on things. So we're coming into this program, I would say, a lot better prepared than we have been in the past. So what's come out of everything is that we're really seeing the potential in this area, and there's a few things that are pretty complicated geologically that have led to that belief. Gail had a few concerns when we acquired the project, and we've dispelled those through the various studies that we've done. Effectively, we're in an area that has been, I wouldn't say overlooked. There's been a fair bit of historical work on the project, but it's been deemed maybe not as prospective as other regions. And at least internally, we've kind of dispelled that and see a lot of potential under what could be post-mineral cover or very thin cover. That has a lot to do with our porphyry targets, where we don't think they're necessarily that deep, and they could be masked at surface. A lot of the academic work that Gail's done and she's presented with the Society of Economic Geologists has really honed in on the overall structural controls for the Golden Triangle, and a lot of that has guided us in our target selection. But one thing I remember from studying at UBC was that small structures, big overall structures, you can also see them at the microscopic scale. So a lot of these regional concepts actually come down to the actual target scale. And these are very refined targets. They're incredibly de-risked. And the one thing I will always say to investors is we have targets that we're not going to drill this year that are easily standalone targets that I would argue are, very top notch, that, we would definitely have the justification to go drill on their own. But we have this really deep pipeline. It's the bench strength is apparently stronger than the Oilers, and we're just going to go through it systematically, and we're testing the best ones first. They might not be the best ones. Often, your 10th best target becomes the major discovery. But there's a lot of meat on the bone we're going this year. So we as a team have a lot of confidence going into this program, and luckily we've got the capital to actually go test it this year.
And what are the goals of the non-drilling portions of the program that you referenced earlier? And would this year's work be enough to generate new targets for future drilling? And how are you sequencing that with the drilling?
Well, like I touched on, we already do have targets ready for drilling. And then there's various other ones, particularly on the ground we recently acquired around Christmas on the Ball Creek West claims. So there's historic drilling on some of those targets. Some of them have incredible geochemical anomalies that don't even have mapping done. So different things are being done at different projects. And the goal is advancing them, but while you're advancing them, it's also being able to rank them and prioritize where to go next. Some things aren't going to be ready to drill at the beginning of next season, but they might be ready to drill towards the end. Some things will likely come out of the work we do, not just in season, but also, you collect the data during the season. You don't necessarily come up with your drill target right away. You need to wait for the assays and then actually interpret it. And, the team's quite busy during the field season, executing on a plan. So when it comes to IP, a lot of that work's going to go within the Hank Williams to Mary kind of area, our highest priority area. A lot of the mapping, maybe half of it will be focused on the area, but half is going to go elsewhere on the project. And some of the geochem will be in that area, but some will be filling in gaps at other locations. So it's just a really systematic process. And the goal is to just keep on refining this pipeline. And I do see a comment from Christian right there as a shareholder, that we recently staked some claims. I'll just touch on that. So the new claim staking process in BC was initiated, I believe, at the end of March, and we did stake an additional, I want to say 80 square kilometers. Don't hold me to it, but a decent amount of claims along the highway east of our project. That's out for consultation. We're still waiting. So we don't actually have those claims yet, which is why there hasn't been any announcement on it, but anybody can go view that on the Mineral Titles website. And then in terms of acquiring more ground, we're always looking. That's all I'll say.
And then at a previous webinar, you spoke about using AI to refine targets. Is this something you've had a chance to try, and what results have you seen?
Yeah, so we are using it ongoing, and we do have targets generated from it. We haven't put anything out because we want to actually go into the field and evaluate these, but there are a couple that we might actually drill within that Hank Williams area that weren't shown on our drill plan, and we'll have to see where we're able to allocate meters. But there's a couple holes we're pretty interested in putting at the far southwestern end of the trend. It's got to be around 75 meters or so of 0.43 gold in a single drill hole with no copper assays. We don't have the drill core, so we don't even know what it looks like. And that bottoms in, I think, 4 meters of a gram gold in a very altered area. And that area is actually lighting up with very little drilling, but it's lighting up with the verified modeling based on similar attributes to the other targets in the area. So it's an ongoing process, and it's another tool we're using, and I hope to test at least one of them this summer.
Will be interesting to see the results. You told us when you plan to start drilling. When would you anticipate getting results from those initial holes back?
So I don't want to fully commit because I can't control the assay labs, but say we should have our first hole done around, prior to Canada Day, prior to the end of the month, I would imagine, or maybe around the end of the month. And maybe a few days of logging and core cutting after we complete it, and then a few days to get it to a lab. So maybe by the 7th or 10th, it's going to be out of lab. I would hope in August, but I'd be very confident we'll have results for Beaver Creek, and I would imagine we would rush assays if it's getting delayed. You do have to pay more to rush assays, so you don't want to do that unless you've got a pretty good justification. But having results in time for the biggest mining conference, Beaver Creek, is pretty important. So we'll do whatever it takes to get results out for then at the latest.
And then can you remind us of where the Highway 37 project is relative to assets owned by majors, and how far is the nearest operating mine?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly the distance offhand. I would imagine that Red Chris is a little bit closer than Brucejack, but those would be the two main mines in the Golden Triangle right now. And we abut the Newmont tenure that includes Red Chris, so they border us to the north. To the northwest would be Shaft Creek, and that also is directly adjacent to us, and they're advancing that to PEA, and we've been in communication with them this year, just given that we're both operating and there's helicopters flying around. And then Galore Creek, that's also getting advanced with Teck and Newmont, and that's out west of us. That's the biggest claim block in the Golden Triangle, and their road borders us to the south. So those are the nearest ones. Around Red Chris, around Brucejack further south, you've got the Kerr Sulphurettes, Mitchell, East Mitchell, Iron Cap, and Treaty Creek, which that whole area is called the Sulphurettes District, and there's about 200 million ounces there. So that's another happening area. Southwest of us would be I guess south of us would be SK Creek, which is being advanced, and then southwest of us would be the Iskut project near Snip, which Seabridge is doing something in the order of 10,000 meters of drilling this year. So that's the real happening areas. Then you go further south, and you've got I guess Goliath, which has raised a ton of money and is doing a lot of drilling this year. And then around them would be Dolly Varden, who's also in a pretty good position. And they've actually been consolidating like us at that south end of the Golden Triangle. So it's a pretty happening area. I've talked with our geologists who've worked in the Toodoggone and close to the Toodoggone, and they've noted that relative to the Toodoggone, we're downtown. We're right by high tension power line, right near a paved highway. I think it's about a 7-hour drive on a logging road to get to the Toodoggone from the nearest paved road. So while there are a lot of roads in that region, it's a long ways to where you're actually going to ship metal. So mining costs in the Golden Triangle, they're not the lowest on earth. They're probably not the highest on earth either, though. I don't think they're going to be as high as the high Andes, and the drill cost is nowhere near what it would be in the Vicuña district.
What is the infrastructure availability like at Highway 37, and what major infrastructure is planned for the region, and how would that potentially impact your project?
Yeah, so Highway 37, I renamed it that because the Highway 37, the Stewart-Cassiar Highway, passes right through it. I forget the exact amount, but the BC government recently announced it's got to be $150, $200 million upgrades to that highway. So the highway is already fine, but it's seeing more traffic now because of the Red Chris ore trucks are driving over our project regularly on the highway. So where we are drilling is got to be about about 12K off the highway, and the power line parallels the highway. So that's right there. We are camped off the highway on private ground this year. We're leasing a private parcel of ground that has a gate on it, which is nice because you could theoretically leave your camp up over the winter. Not the tents, but the lumber and whatnot isn't getting taken for firewood by somebody, which saves you cost and time in the future. So that all that infrastructure would be available in the region. And then at the south end of the project, the Galore Creek Road actually got a BC government investment. I forget the number there. I think it's 40-50 million. And Shaft Creek, if that ever goes ahead, there'll be a road cutting right through our Mess Creek area. So infrastructure is pretty damn good for working in a relatively remote part of the world. The way I look at this from an upside standpoint is we're close to the road, so you can build a mine in the future that you're not going in the middle of the Arctic, but it is helicopter access, which takes the costs up, but it also means that it hasn't been as aggressively explored. So it's kind of a sweet spot there where you could develop something, but it's not, it just hasn't seen, it's not like Nevada. But it might become like the Carlin Trend at some point, given the amount of gold we're seeing in the area and the amount of majors moving into the area.
Got it. So you staked some claims to the east of Highway 37. Are you still looking to acquire additional ground in the area?
Yeah, I touched on that. Yeah, like we are always looking for more ground. We're not looking outside of the Golden Triangle. We're looking within the Golden Triangle. But I'm not giving away any strategy on a webinar.
And then with Highway 37 now consolidated into 849 square kilometers, what sets it apart from other land holdings in the region?
Well, I think a big key thing in any of these mining districts is, the Golden Triangle is just a triangle on a map. Doesn't mean everything within that triangle's perspective. There's provincial parks within that triangle. There's post-mineral cover within that triangle. Probably about a quarter of the Golden Triangle on our map is very easy to claim is not prospective because it's a younger basin that's draped over prospective rocks. Red Chris is actually right on the edge of that basin. So what makes it prospective is that we have the prospective rocks covering the majority of the project. So if you were to look at the Golden Triangle and look at where you can actually put a porphyry, we have by far the largest land position of any junior, and I would argue we have more prospective porphyry ground than all the other small cap juniors combined with the Golden Triangle. I think we probably have the same amount of prospective ground as the entire Toodoggone, something in that ballpark. So it's a huge amount of highly prospective ground, and that's what drove the consolidation. We didn't want to just grab ground for the sake of grabbing it. We wanted ground that actually has the potential to host mineralization.
Got it. Can you elaborate on your drilling strategy at Williams?
Yeah. So the drilling strategy is to actually understand the system. We've got pretty good ideas right now. We have all the photos of the core that was sampled in 2018, 2019, but we only have one drill hole, and I've got part of it sitting in a display box behind me. So we need to actually see the core so we can make better interpretations. You can only do so much off a photo. So part of what we're trying to achieve is just understanding the system, and what I mean understanding is understanding what is influencing grade, which direction it's going at depth. So the drilling is being designed to do just that. It's filling in a few gaps. We've created an internal 3D block model, and the shape of it is weird. And the shape of it is weird because there's gaps in drilling. So we've got mineralization at surface, and it's missing several hundred meters from the next point or where the model starts. And the model starts just because you've got a pierce point with the drill hole. So we're trying to add mineralization above it, but then we're also going, 250 meters or so below the block model. And we're drilling it kind of like a tripod on the first three holes, with the goal of making damn sure we know the orientation of the system in 3D. Basically, if you're drilling a kilometer hole and the system has deviated by, say, 10 degrees, you're going to miss it on a vertical hole. So you need to know exactly which way it's going. And that's what we're trying to do with this. We expect to have good results here, and hopefully that will, show that the system is a lot bigger than it was previously believed to be. But also it will show that we've got a better handle on it, and then we can move towards drilling these really deep vertical holes, which are often, what it takes to get the really huge intercepts and build tonnage on these porphyry systems. And if you look at a lot of these porphyry systems around, like Red Chris, I don't know what number hole it was when they drilled that 1 kilometer, 1% copper, 1 gram gold, but it was probably a few hundred holes in. And there's 12 holes so far at Williams with with a total meterage of about 6,000 meters. So we'll be adding at least, say, in the ballpark of 3,000 immediately in that area, and then testing other targets outside of the area drilling within the same kind of porphyry signature. So there might be multiple little plugs coming up that'll route into a big system at depth. We don't know this yet. There's a lot of unknowns. So it's still early stage drilling, but it's very well informed early stage drilling. And, a lot of these intercepts will pass a historic intercept on the way to depth, or they'll drill maybe 100 meters below a historic intercept. So, based on that, we can expect to see some, we will see mineralization. The question is, what kind of intercept lengths and grade can we pull out of this, and how is it going to advance your understanding for expanding on things in the future? And the future could be later in the season.
Got it. One comment from the audience, which is good luck hunting for that Boone and Crockett porphyry. And then I had one final question, which was, with the closing of the latest $10.9 million financing, are there additional funding sources from the government that Kingfisher can access? I think there used to be something available.
No, we raised primarily critical metal charity flow through, and the premium we got was a 63% premium on that. So that already has a lot of government incentives built into it, basically giving somebody a tax break. And just for anybody that isn't clear, this is not normal flow through. The people buying this, for the most part, were not Canadians. They were foreign funds, and that tax advantage has already been stripped. And the person who got that never really had the share. They had it for one moment on paper, and it just got transferred to the other person. So it's not like normal flow through. If you wanted to raise normal flow through, we could have, the sky's the limit. There's a lot of availability in that. So that, I would say, is the main incentive. If we do spend hard dollars, you also get I think 30% of that back, but there's a delay due to accounting and getting it approved by the government. We are looking at other potential sources of money, but I don't think they would be available for exploration per se. It might be available for some environmental initiatives, or potentially there might be some way to structure something leading to an Indigenous investment or an equity stake in the company. So we're looking at a lot of things like that. But the last month or so, we've been focused on closing financing and getting this program up and running.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I had. I don't see any audience ones. Is there anything you wanted to discuss today that we didn't cover?
No, I think we've covered everything. Just hopefully we can bring the spotlight back to this part of the Golden Triangle. The Tudagon's kind of stolen the thunder from us recently, and everybody's seen the market caps go up in that area with the area plays and whatnot. The fact of the matter is, though, that the big deposits are in the Golden Triangle, and that's where the majority of the majors are, and we're surrounded by them. So I would say stay tuned. It's going to be a pretty damn exciting season.
Got it. Well, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Deb.
Dustin, congrats on the financing. Looking forward to seeing those dollars be put to work this summer. And sounds like you're going to have a lot of news flow throughout the fall. So looking forward to seeing that. If any investors have any follow-up questions or would like a one-on-one meeting, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to arrange that for you. And thanks everyone for your time and for your participation. And thanks, Dustin, for the update.
Thanks, Deb, and thanks everybody that tuned in.